Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and he has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me?
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
A Cinco de Mayo south-of-the-border party off campus at University of Delaware. Students dressed as landscapers with Pedro and Jose name tags on their work shirts. Written on the back, Spick and Span Gardeners. All 3 of the students photographed are members of a campus honor fraternity. Other partygoers wore Mexico T-shirts. The back of one said, "Full of tequila." In recent months, students have been throwing racially themed parties across the nation. White students dressed as Latino janitors, gardeners, and pregnant teens at a similar south-of-the-border party last February. At Clemson and University of Connecticut, so-called gangsta parties parodied African Americans.
But for this woman, discrimination is all too real. Nahaya Javed helped us design our experiment. Although born in Chicago, she says she's constantly characterized by fellow Americans as the enemy.
They always start off with, "You're a terrorist, Osama lover, towel head, camel jockey," on and on.
While attending college in Texas, she says she continually suffered verbal abuse and has even been physically attacked just because she's Muslim.
They assume I'm not from here, and if I tell them I'm American, they're like, "No, you're not. Just because you were born here doesn't make you American." And I'm like, "So what makes you American?"
It's a daily battle.
Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like living in America, I should have to fight this battle.
Do you know what a woman of color is?
Yes, a woman of color is someone like myself, dark skinned, and I think it also includes Latino women as well, I think are considered women of color. Although I think it tends to, for most people, it tends to refer more to black women.
Yes, it's a woman who is any other race besides white.
A woman of color is a woman who has skin that is other than white, or what was perceived as, like, back in the day as anybody who looked different than white.
Have you ever experienced discrimination or have been treated differently for being a woman of color?
Yes, I have been treated differently just because I'm Hispanic and went to an all-white school. I was discriminated just because I was different than them or looked different. I always looked thicker. They had no body. So I was discriminated just by the way they looked. They used to call me fat. And I thought in my mind I was fat because they were so skinny. To realize I wasn't fat, it was that I'm not gonna look how they're gonna look.
I was born and raised in North Carolina, and it was segregated when I was growing up.
Yeah, I actually ran into a guy who was like a white supremacist who just spoke to me in a really disrespectful way, specifically because I was black. I didn't know him at all. I was just walking down the street and he stopped in front of me and was very disrespectful and said some really disgusting words that I won't repeat, but yeah, it was simply because I was black.
What stereotypes have you heard about your culture?
That we're wetbacks and that we're rapists and drug lords.
That we are lazy, unwilling, unambitious, and unwilling to work hard to earn what we believe we deserve.
That we sell drugs, welfare, babies, having a lot of babies, not working.
Okay, so there are parties based on stereotypes placed on different cultures. So like there's like blackface parties where like they paint their body black and they dress up in like as gangsters and they have guns and drugs. And then there's like, I've seen ones with Hispanics, so like they come with the shirt that says Pedro and they have the cleaning supplies. Yeah, so how do you think that influences like how people see them, like those cultures? Well, I think it's just basically cultural appropriation. So people outside of the race, so like you know how like people like do like black parties or whatever. So they're saying that all black people, like African Americans, are like they're all sort of this gangster type and they all like want to kill people and stuff like that. So I think it just sets a stigma around all these cultures and people get scared and they just don't want to sort of interact with these people of color because they're like since like this Mexican like all they do is clean, like I don't want to hang out with them, like I'm better than them. So it sets a big stigma.
The blackface parties, I think to them they think it's a joke, it's something to make fun of. Meanwhile, the rest of us, we have movements like the Black Lives Matter movement for a reason. It's because there's a lot of discrimination going around us, and I think there are more and more of us speaking up, and other people, I guess people who are not experiencing that, see that as maybe whining, and maybe that's why they see it as a joke and something to make fun of.
Okay, so I'm going to read you two definitions. The definition of black and the definition of white. Of a period of time or situation characterized by tragic or disastrous events causing despair or pessimism. Disastrous, tragic, fateful, wretched, woeful, awful, terrible. An antonym is joyful, full of anger or hatred, and very wicked or evil. The definition of white is morally pure, innocent, without malice, and harmless. So compare and contrast how those definitions to how black people and white people are viewed in society, in your opinion, or how does it?
Because that's how society sees us. Just like the definitions, that doesn't make any sense to me because black should not be angry or everything else that was under the definition of black, and white is pure, and there shouldn't be any. To me, I understand like there's gonna be definitions, but it's not who we are. So when they compare us, black and white, I feel like that comes within how you feel a black person should be or should act, or how a white person should be or should act. I don't think the definition has nothing to do with us. It's just a definition.
I guess if you were to say that black is evil and wicked and white is like pure and clean and serenity, you would perceive people the same way as you perceive that definition, because like you would usually assume that black is an evil color and white is like a good angel color. Like even like in the Bible, they describe angels as like angelic, and you usually imagine that as white.
When you look up the definition of a Latina, black woman, or Asian on Urban Dictionary, you see words like sexy, hot, etc. How does that affect the expectations women put on themselves?
I feel like that puts an expectation that we have to be as good as those definitions say. That we have to look sexy in order to be someone. We have to feel that serenity, that we should be like this in order to just feel okay that we're at.
I kind of think that sets them, so that kind of makes them more vulnerable to being like super duper like self-conscious, yeah. So with Latinas, they're highly portrayed as like, they're exotic and stuff like that. So like there of course are some Latinas who are like naturally like very, very beautiful, and they have to do like very few things to like accentuate their beauty, but then there's like some who are like hairier than others and stuff like that. So it kind of feels as if that puts the ones who are like sort of not portrayed as beautiful to society, it puts them down. Like it makes them like, I don't look like this, so I'm very ugly or stuff like that. And yeah, it makes them set unrealistic standards for themselves. In the work environment, women go through the tightrope. This is when women are walking a tightrope between being seen as too feminine to be competent and too masculine to be likable. Where do you believe that you fall on this tightrope?
I would probably consider myself highly aggressive, because I feel like that's kind of what women in the workplace need to be to get things done, to be taken seriously in a way. And yes, I do believe there is that stereotype where you're in danger of either being considered too masculine or being too feminine, and why is either a bad thing? Really, just do what it takes to get the job done. If you work in an environment where you work with aggressive people, then it does call for you to be just as aggressive. If you're working with an environment where you don't need to be, and you happen to be, the feminine type, then shouldn't you be allowed to be who you are?
How does this affect the way that people treat you?
I'm not sure. You know, I try not to think too much about what I do think about what my behavior means in terms of how other people treat me, but at the same time, I think it's a hard balance to reach. So I focus on just doing what I need to do, and if there's in a situation that calls for me to be aggressive, then that's what I'm going to be. If it doesn't call for it, then I'll try to just be, you know, not as aggressive, or strike the right balance, I suppose.
Masculine. I like to do it myself. I don't like a man to do it for me unless they have to do it for me. But I'm very independent, so I feel I qualify more on the masculine side.
How does you being masculine affect how people treat you?
I think it's a plus for me, because as women and as colored women, we need to be stronger and more educated, because everybody try to put us down. So I feel like I get more respect being who I am.
I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible.
Okay, what comes to mind when you hear the word beauty?
Black man, white.
Myself.
We all want to help one another.
Super
Beings are like me. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery.
Me.
A way of life. Free.
Myself because
Beauty comes within.
So like everybody's beautiful. Like I think everybody.
Now you wonder, is it worth it? Is it paying off? Oh, you're living in darkness, yeah. But if I gave you light, could you free your mind? Free your mind, free your mind.